Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be reviewing my vintage Rolex Air King Date. So without further ado, let's get started. So for those of you who don't know what a Rolex Air King Date is, well, this is it. It's what I'm holding in my hand right now. So the first Rolex Air King Date was released in 1959, and it was basically an Air King time-only watch, which was available on the market at that time, but with two major differences. First, the bezel around the dial was gold in color and fluted. These little ridges right here is what fluted means. Rolex basically calls whenever the bezel does have these little ridges on them, they refer to that as fluted. So the Air King time-only watch that was available at that time, the bezel was silver in color and smooth. The second major difference was that the Air King Date that was released had a date window. So as you can see here, it's a little uplifted with a number inside, the number 3, which indicates the date. The original Air King did not have that date window. 1 year later, however, Rolex did release a full stainless steel version of the Air King Date. However, the bezel was smooth and silver in color, obviously, if it was fully stainless steel, but it did have a date window. So this Air King Date that I have in my hand is a watch from 1988. I did buy this about 3 years ago. I bought it on the pre-loved market, so it's not new at all, it's a vintage watch. And at the time, I was looking for a more bulkier, casual type of watch to wear. What really caught my eye about this watch was the two-tone, the gold with the silver. I'm not usually a fan of two-tone watches. I really don't like two-tone watches. It's not my thing. However, this one caught my eye. I guess it's because the contrast between the silver, because it is brushed on the Rolex, and the gold isn't too bright and in your face, basically. It's more subdued two-tone. I really did like the way it looked, and I find it kind of changes the aesthetic of the watch and makes it very interesting and different at the same time. Now, this watch is mainly made out of stainless steel. However, there are two parts of the watch that are 14 karat gold, and that is the bezel, so the fluted ridged ring around the time window, as well as the crown. It is an automatic watch and its caliber is 1520. So the watch does consist of a two-tone silver dial, and what that means is that when you look at the watch, the face of the watch, it's mainly silver, but there are kind of hints of gold every now and then. So the dial does have a silver background. However, the indices and the hands of the watch are in gold, or are gold in color. So there are gold bars all around the watch in the place of numbers, except for there's a crown in the place of a gold crown, the Rolex symbol in the place of the 12, the date in the place of the 3, and that's about it. Actually, when you do look closely, the bars or the indices indicating the number 6 and 9 do seem to be a little wider and thicker than the other indices. So that's just a slight, but you do have to look very closely to notice that. If you do look very closely at the watch, you will realize that the portion of the crystal above the date, or the number 3 in this case, is rounded and kind of uplifted. And that's called the cyclops. What that does is that it magnifies the number or the date underneath so that it can be seen more easily. As for the writing on the dial, there is some writing. You can see that it does say Rolex right under the crown, with the name Oyster Perpetual and Air King Date underneath. And just above the 6 in the indice indicating the number 6, basically, it does say precision for some reason. I don't really know what that means. If you do know what the word precision, what they're referring to, please let me know in the comment section below. Looking at the indices, you will see that the edges have these little like balls or rounds above them, and those are called looms, and Originally, when the watch wasn't vintage, if you will, it did kind of glow in the dark. However, they don't work anymore now. With time, the little looms or the little balls kind of lose their capacity to glow in the dark, so they don't work, but they did at one point in time. So the hands on this watch are in gold. You do have 3 hands. So we have a minute hand, an hour hand, as well as a second hand. And you will see that the second hand will just continuously turn around the dial. The crown of the watch is basically, I don't have much to say about it. It's basically a classic Rolex crown. It's kind of ridged or fluted, if you will, on the sides. And it does have a crown, a Rolex symbol at the tip. So the case of the watch, the diameter, it is 34 millimeters, and it is what we call an Oyster case. So it's basically a classic Rolex kind of look. The only funkiness to the Air King in this particular model is the two-tone color when you look at the dial. It did come on a bracelet, so this is what we call the Oyster bracelet. And for those of you who don't know, when Rolex is referring to an Oyster bracelet, what they mean is this like 3-link construction. So as you can see, there's kind of like 3 parts to the bracelet. You have these thin parts at the edges and the thicker link in the center. So that's what they mean when they say Oyster. So the bracelet, as you may have imagined, is in stainless steel, and it is brushed, so it's not that shiny. It doesn't really shine. It's more matted out, which makes for a more casual type of watch. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the clasp is kind of upside down. I kind of like turned it over just so it fits me better. This was originally a men's watch, and there's only I have tiny wrists, and there's only so many links you can remove from the bracelet. So I kind of like flipped it over just so it fits me a little bit snugger and a little bit better. So that's why, for those of you who are wondering, that's why the clasp is kind of like upside down, if you will. The clasp is a fold over clasp, so you kind of just open it like that, just kind of peel it open, and you kind of just snap it back shut to close it. Very easy to open and close. Very easy, but it's not easy enough that it will fall off your wrist. Basically, you kind of do have to put some pressure for it to open. So unfortunately, Rolex has discontinued their Air King Date, but if you are interested in getting a two-tone one like this, there are plenty on the pre-loved market that you can get your hands on. So the prices do begin around 4,500 USD for a Rolex Air King Date on an Oyster bracelet. You can also get it on a leather strap or another kind of strap. Those usually are less expensive, but obviously if you are interested in the Rolex, the Oyster bracelet, I mean, depending on the condition, the year, etc., the prices can vary, but in general they do start at 4,500 USD, whereas the ones on the leather strap do begin around, you can get one for 3,000 USD around. And don't worry, some links will be left in the description box below of different pre-loved ones that are available on the market right now for those of you who are interested. And I will leave as well my favorite vintage watch shop in Montreal. I'll leave all their information in the description. So I can't guarantee there is a Rolex Air King Date two-tone like this one for sale right now at their shop or boutique, but they do have a huge various array of different vintage watches. They do have a website, so you can order online if you're not in Montreal or from Montreal or can't get to Montreal. There are different options for you. So this is a great watch. It's a classic watch. It's never going out of style. And the two-tone, I feel, makes it a little bit more rare than per se the Date Just or the Oyster Perpetual, just because this type of watch was made exclusively for the Commonwealth countries, just like Australia and Canada. So although it is a very classic watch and very typical of Rolex, if you ask me, it is still unique in a way, just because there aren't many two-tone watches like this out there, as opposed to Date Just and Oyster Perpetuals. I mean, it is fairly easy to get your hands on one like this, but you don't see them around as much as other styles, other Rolex styles, basically. And it is just a very versatile watch. That's what I love about Rolex watches. You can wear them very casually with jeans or whatever, sweatpants, joggers, but you can also dress them up. So if you've been thinking and debating about getting your hands on a first Rolex, I feel like the vintage Air King Date is a good choice, and pull the trigger, get your hands on one, you will not regret it. So that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave all your comments and questions in the comment section below. I'll be sure to answer. Don't forget to like the video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys!